Welcome to the gameplay demo walkthrough of CD Projekt Red's upcoming title, Cyberpunk 2077. A narrative-driven, open-world RPG set in a dark version of the future. Before we start, a small but important disclaimer. The gameplay you're about to see is from a work-in-progress version of the game. Everything you see is potentially subject to change. In Cyberpunk 2077, you can fully customize your character using a deep customization system. For this demo, we're going to play a female. Keep in mind that what you see here is not final. We just want to give you a glimpse of what will be possible in the released game. This is an RPG, so before we get into our appearance, we need to define our backstory. What you choose here will unlock different possibilities later in the game. Also, you can use an array of different options to modify how you look. These include body type, hairstyle, tattoos, makeup, skin tone, and many, many more. But visuals aren't everything. You'll also be able to customize your initial attribute setup. You'll notice we didn't pick a class. Cyberpunk 2077 features a fluid class system, and you'll be able to modify your class throughout the game. This demo takes place near the beginning of the game. V and her friend Jackie, along with a netrunner named T-Bug, are hired to find and retrieve a missing person, a girl whose locator implant went dark.
Always clear. Go!
12:37 on your right. Girls inside. Biomon's been down an hour. Better Delta.
Cyberpunk 2077 is a first-person role-playing game. This perspective enables us to maximize your immersion.
Should have full access in 2.8 seconds. Reached it. Your turn.
Órale, Lito, way, I know.
Alarms neutralized.
Oh, are we fucking late? Is that her? That our target, V?
Room's too simple. Not our girl, I think. Keep looking.
It looks like these scavengers are kidnapping people to harvest their implants. Okay, things are about to get heated. We'll take a reflex booster that temporarily allows us to use the Kereznikov ability. This is Kereznikov.
He's moving! Cover! Find cover! Blast the wall! You'll get him!
Can't see shit!
Oh, who's your fucking partner?
Got none to fucking you!
Got options here!
Room he's in looked out on the balcony. Got a window on the left. Go!
Right now, get his attention. The west. Terminado! Won't be needing this anymore. Pussy.
Layout shows only one room left. The bathroom. Go.
Sure hope our target's in there. Cabrones.
Think I got her. Got our target.
We make it? She alive?
This does not look good.
No, in a minute. Jacking into Biomon. Sandra Dorset, NC 570442. Got a winner. Or she will be if we can get her to a hospital. Sheesh. Trauma Team Platinum, too.
Platinum? Shit, TT should have swooped in if she sneezed.
Something's jamming the Biomon signal. Talk to me, T-Bug.
Virus, probably. Locator neurosocket. Should be a shard slotted in. Shit's probably on that. If we clear it, free up the signal, TT could actually drop in, take her off our hands.
Got the shard. Removing it now. Done.
Greetings, Sandra. An emergency evacuation unit has been dispatched and is due to arrive at your location in 180 seconds.
Biomon claims trauma will be here in 3 minutes.
Like the fucking cavalry. Well, let's get her out of here.
Your premium plan will cover 90% of the projected costs of your rest.
Mierda, she's flatlining!
V, need to know what's going on.
Jackie, air hypo!
Can't, China!
She's stable.
Fuera, Jaina. Get her outside. I'll cover you.
It turns out a virus disrupted the girl's locator implant. We've fixed that, and now help is inbound.
Swarm of the sons of bitches, 2 vans full, just pulled up outside.
Fuera, get her out. Terrorists!
Stand clear. Landing. Stop where you are! Place the patient on the stretcher. Five steps back. Now! I said step back! TT-133 to control. Patient NC570442 secured. Stimulants being administered, 70 milligrams dopamine, 110 norepinephrine, 800 fibrin.
Hey, give us a lift out of here? No problem.
Cutting connection. T-bug out.
All clear.
That was Trauma
Let's see when
Team,
me blow.
a kind of high-end premium medical
Don't
insurance.
have much time from what Bug said.
We've delivered the target, and T-Bug has notified us that the scavengers have called in reinforcements. Let's get out of here before they arrive.
I got the eddies for new wheels now. Eyeing something real fine, too. How about you, Jaina? Probably blow it all on booze in 3 days.
Talking about somebody else, Jack. You cleaner than a cunt out of combat.
Cyberpunk is a mature, visceral experience, and as such, it will let you explore a variety of different interactions with the game world, and as you just saw, its people.
Hello, Night City. Your man Stan here with a scoop sheet on all last night's bids. But first, remember the man, the myth, Johnny Silverhand. Been a year since he went on his last ride. All you gunks sitting in the afterlife nursing that scotch, waiting for something better. You know what I mean.
The job was a success, and V obviously has some money to burn.
Hey, sup, V? Look, I need to talk to you. Got news as big as my balls.
And I got a hot date with my Ripper Doc.
Come on, Jaina, make the doc wait. Pull some pants on your culo and get down here. Subway entrance, and bring your iron.
Okay, Jackie has just told us that he has some big news for us, and we have an appointment with our Ripper Doc today. Before we leave, let's take a good look around our apartment. Good morning, Night City. The song on the radio is by rocker boy Johnny Silverhand. It's part of our creative process to draw inspiration from the pen and paper system created by Mike Pondsmith, and to put our own 2077 spin on it. Let's go grab our gear. Okay, we'll take V's trusty pistol, and also grab our jacket. Since Cyberpunk 2077 is an RPG, the jacket not only provides us with protective stats like armor, but it also increases our street cred. Street cred is a form of experience the player acquires by completing side missions. It is used to unlock new vendors and content throughout Night City. All right, let's go meet Jack. V's current apartment is located inside a mega building, a huge building complex that forms a micro-society of its own. In this timeline, technology and the world have evolved in some ways that seem familiar, but entirely surprising in others. As an example, in this world, people pay with eddies, slang for Eurodollars. We make sure to root every detail in the world's lore, so everything has its purpose and stays believable. A big part of our RPG experience is having a world that is interactive. Here, a generic ad has morphed into an advertisement specifically tailored to V, informing her of the nearest vendor she can purchase the product. In this case, it shows us where to find some Nicola soda.
For the very first stages of food production, with bio-quality that even Mother Nature can envy. Try out our freshly developed content and let your tongue be amazed. Delicious. Yum.
Hey, you're all 45. It's ready.
This is Wilson, one of Night City's many gunsmiths. We won't be checking his wares today, but you can purchase and upgrade your weapons and gear throughout the city. Cyberpunk 2077 is set in Night City, a bustling metropolis located on the coast of the Free State of North California. It's a dystopian city where violence and oppression are the norm. We are working hard to make Night City a fully realized, seamless open world with no loading screens. Currently, we're in Watson, a former industrial district where crime now mixes with money.
Very strong signal. You kidding me? Damn signal gonked out 3 times. 3 times, yo! It's a piece of shit. Now give me back my eddies.
Silverhand's debut album, that. Downhill ever since, he asked me.
Could be some truth to that.
We've greatly enhanced our crowd and community systems to create the most believable city in any open-world game to date. The city's streets are bustling with crowds of people from all facets of life, all living their lives within a full day and night cycle. Okay, there's Jackie.
Híjole. Fucking finally. Buckle up. Shit's happening.
What's up, Jack?
Dexter Deshawn. Huh? Sound familiar? Hombre wants to talk to you. One of Night City's top fixers, eh? Okay, you see that caddy? Need to walk on over there and get us a job, Jaina.
Fine, I'll meet him. Talk.
I'll be at Senor Ripper's. Good news to me. Good luck, V!
It turns out we've caught the attention of one of Night City's biggest players, Dexter Deshawn, a fixer, a person who gets things done. He wants to meet up and discuss a job.
Get in.
Let's see what he has for us.
Yo, Miss V, a pleasure. Let's roll. Scanning a serious job just now. Playing gargantuan compared to smashing up a scab home. You interested?
Interested, sure. Tell me more.
Well, glad to hear it. Before we get started on this, though, I need to be sure. Sure you all right.
All right. And the nature of this test?
Slaughter in the show. See, got a classic tale for you. Psycho gang, just doing his thing, jumped a Corp convoy, got away with gear. Now I need me that little combat bot. They call it the Flathead. Of course, I got the Eddies to buy it, but me and the Maelstrom boys ain't the best of friends. No flow to our convo, see?
Who's the woman?
Corpo agent. She's on the hunt for the dogs who sold the Gangoons info on the convoy. Got herself a prisoner. Her chief suspect, most likely. Going on 20 hours since the convoy was jumped, and she still don't have no guilty party. Gotta be desperate by now. Be wise to think how you could use that. Got any questions for me?
Clear on it all, I think. Time I got to work.
Beautiful. Here's hoping my inkling checks out.
So, see you at the afterlife soon as the job's done.
Do good, and this'll be the start of a beautiful friendship based on heaps of eddies.
It seems Dexter has given us a test of sorts to see if we're worthy. He wants us to retrieve a piece of high-tech combat gear a local gang stole from the Militech Megacorp. We'll be able to approach this job from a variety of angles. Let's try calling the Militech contact to see where that leads.
100 times what I could take.
Stout here. Hi, heard you were looking for some tech. Let's talk.
Hey, everybody shut it! Where is it? Come on, spill!
On the horn? No.
Amateur hour, Jesus. First exit off Skyline going towards the NID. Storm channel under the overpass. Meet you there.
The situation's tricky because the contract giver is a corporate agent who seems a little high-strung. Before we get down to business, it's a great idea to visit our Ripper Doc.
Yeah, you! You see this cam, huh? Yeah, got a real whack tape, change your fucking life.
Crime is a common occurrence. Night City is not a safe place. Life here is not easy.
I'm Cindy. Got some real juicy super
Your heart chakra looks a little out of whack, babe.
V!
I can release.
How'd it play out with Dex?
It's all here.
All right, I'll check it out while I wait for you.
V? Dr. Vector, we'll see you now.
We're at a Ripper Doc clinic. Ripper Docs are specialist vendors who offer people the possibility to install or upgrade their cyberware.
Vicky, spry as ever, you old Ripper.
Hernandez passes on the chance, coming in with a couple of hooks. Gaining the upper hand pretty darn quickly.
Need to bump up my specs and get a grip.
Really? Now? Finally?
Vic, shit just got real. Hitting the major leagues. Got a job from Dex Deshawn.
The Dexter Deshawn? Yeah, that is something. But let me guess. Hasn't paid you yet.
Quit crying, Vic. I'll bring you the Eddies later, with interest. You know I will.
Last time, I swear. Now sit. That's Karoshi. Best I've got. And should be about right under the circumstances. Now jack in. You peruse and choose while I scan. See what's going on inside.
We're going to install both an optical scanner,
Mark 1, like I said. Decent enough scanner. Displays data on your cornea.
and a subdermal weapon grip.
The link's not labeled. And to be perfectly honest, not entirely sure where the hell I got it. Still, looks like it'll talk to Kiroshi Tech.
I'm ready. Carve away.
Okay, all clean. Now for the fun stuff. Lay that Major League arm of yours right here. Just like that. Thanks. Now a bit of anesthetic, and I can start cutting. Feel anything?
Doc. Play-by-play. Makes you sound like a dentist. They're always going on and on.
Don't be mean now. Remember, I'm old. I got a shaky Gannic hand. Could slip. Lights out for a minute, all right? Good. So let's test it. Linking you in. You might feel a little discomfort, maybe blurred vision, low contrast, glitches. So, how's it look to you?
With the scanner, we can zoom in on things and take a closer look.
This is fantastic.
Beautiful. Time for the scanner.
Additionally, we can analyze objects, get details on enemy weak points or gang affiliation.
It might take you a while to adjust, but first time's rarely the charm with anything, really. Scanner should eventually sync with your thought processes and read your intentions. Ought to work like a charm. Now draw your weapon. You should see your ammo count in a brand new sight.
The subdermal weapon grip links to our scanner and shows us weapon information like ammo count and fire modes. It also increases the base damage on all connected weapons.
Shit, Victor. Not bad. I don't know what to say.
Say you'll take this and remember the dosage. 2 whiffs now, and another 2 in an hour.
Thanks again. You're the best, Vic.
Go on, kid. Show them what you can do. And once you hit the big time, don't forget where you came from. Keep your guard, idiot.
While some Ripper docs operate legally, others provide black market services. For the right price, they can even offer to install illegal, military-grade cyberware.
Left a few minutes ago. Said he'd wait outside.
Well, well. Kiroshi. Old Vic's got a soft spot for you, Heina. Come on. How about you use them fancy-ass optics to scan my new wheels?
Sure, but you'll have to let me take it for a spin.
Hey, just watch the paint job. Who's this pendejo? Hey, carnal! Hey, you got a problem?
This guy looks an awful lot like one of those scavengers we took out earlier.
Something tells me that wasn't no coincidence, huh?
Jackie's car is a super-powered sports car running on Chew-2, the super fuel of the future. Players can explore Night City freely, in many different cars, on bikes, and in other types of vehicles.
This does not look good. Puta madre!
Grab the wheel, Jack!
Oh, fuck!
It looks like the scavengers from earlier are still angry.
They're pulling ahead, Hyder. Watch it now. Got it. All right.
I think we got rid of them. That was intense.
Shit! The fuck was that?
Night City never sleeps. Danger lurks around every corner, even in daytime. Random encounters like these are an example of how your actions directly influence your open world experience.
Let's get the fuck out of here.
Okay, Jackie.
So, think they're done riding our asses?
Scavs? Sure, maybe. Should be looking for a new spot to slice and dice, not gunning after us. But who knows? Real messed up pendejos, Scavs. Saw it yourself.
Many forces are fighting for control of Night City, but the mega corporations are the real showrunner. The agent we're going to meet represents Militech, one of the largest companies in the private military sector.
Why are we stopping?
Remember the corpo off Dex's Shard? Ranger, she's in the area and we're gonna meet.
Let me guess. She's in hot corporal water. Desperate. Then you think you can use that?
See if I can, yeah.
Since Cyberpunk 2077 is an RPG, preparation will be key when dealing with Night City's powerful, especially when these are corpos. Instead of just rushing in, let's assess the situation with our freshly installed Kiroshi optical scanner.
There. Let's take a closer look.
Composite armor. Car's a fucking tank. Shit.
Yeah, Militech. No doubt about it. You sure you still want to meet him?
Yeah, gotta do this. But don't you move a damn muscle. Not unless I start, that is.
These guys are levels higher than we are. Let's try to approach them carefully.
Stout, take it you were the one to call?
Yep. We wanted...
Think you're smart? Thought you could blackmail me, bitch? Set conditions?
Calm the hell down! What is this?
I've got you now, asshole!
You're insane! Who the fuck is this?
I'll know in 2 seconds flat. That fucking thing ready?
All set.
Are you here alone?
The corpos have hacked us through our personal link and have subjected us to a kind of lie detector program. The dialogue system in Cyberpunk 2077 is fully gameplay driven.
I asked if you came alone!
Yep, just little old me.
She's lying.
Search the area. Now listen, folks, we don't need to be here all day. This piece of shit, Anthony Gilchrist, did he or another asshole at Militech leak info to you or anyone else about a convoy?
It might be tempting to reach for the gun, but the consequences could
Got
be
nothing
dire.
to do with him or
Remember,
Militech.
these guys are really tough.
Shit. Checks out. You got nothing on me! Nothing! Won't get away with this, you bitch! You're dead!
Somebody shut him up.
Take me home! Now!
All right. I have no idea who you're working for or what you even want, but you better give me something solid or I will end you.
I've got an offer.
Oh, you are stretching. This better be fucking good.
Gangoons who ripped you off? I know where to find them. They got a bot I want. Give me the funds to buy that bot. You can do what you want with the gang.
I don't give a shit about the thieves. I want my mold. Cred chip, 50K. Just enough to buy you your bot. Thing is, chip's gotta make it into the thieves' terminal. That's all I need. Think you can do that? Then we got a deal.
Fine. I'm in.
Try to fuck me in any way, and I'll be seeing you real soon.
You're making a mistake! This cunt's good as dead! And she'll take you down with her.
The agent gave us the money to buy the bot we need from the gang. By choosing to call the Militech agent earlier, we have now opened up a non-violent path through this quest. Of course, we could try and keep the money, but that would mean we'd have to take the merchandise by force, which requires a lot of firepower.
Looked a little fishy, you know? Poquito tense. No signal, so I stayed put.
Good thing, too. Went down about like I expected. Made a deal, and we're good to meet with Maelstrom now.
Mm-hmm.
Be there soon. What do you expect?
Corps don't forgive or forget. Even these Borg fucks sense that. Feel the pressure. That's why they're holed up in this shithole, praying to the almighty Trip 6. Gotta move the tech, but they can't. Cause your new best friend from the tripped out, tanked out SUV is just begging them to try. How you want to do this?
Even now, we can choose how to approach this quest. Do we go in guns blazing, or do we try to negotiate for the bot?
Plan's simple. We pay with the Corpo's cred and get out.
I don't know, but you're calling this one.
For this demo, let's try the
What,
more
don't trust my
diplomatic
charm?
approach.
Tough shit. All we need's for them to buy it.
Don't know you.
Want to talk to Royce.
Main room. I'm waiting.
They look damn well prepared.
All strapped with Militech gear.
Psycho Borgs chromed out with military-grade hardware worth millions. Should be
The guys we're about to meet are dangerous. They are members of the Maelstrom gang, and their obsession with body modification goes way beyond even this world's standards. On their path to becoming machines, they don't shy away from even the most extreme measures.
Anti-personnel mine. Shrapnel spitter. My favorite.
Gangoon's getting creative with their gear.
It looks like they made this abandoned All Foods meat factory their hideout. Charming.
Another one? Seriously?
Maybe we should have taken him by surprise.
A little late for regrets like that. Got us in their sights now. Just keep moving. Stay cool. They're just trying to spook us.
Remember, we've chosen to buy the tech, not steal it. Hopefully this will go fast and easy. This is a pretty well-guarded place. You can imagine what would have happened if we'd taken the violent path.
What?
Looking to buy a bot. Model MTO D12. Looks like a spider.
Couch planted. Yo, Kurt, peek around the corner, see if we got anything like that. Well, shit. Sit down.
I'll stand. Can't move on your culo. Makes you an easy target.
Sit down.
That really necessary, hombre?
I ain't your hombre. Sit. Sit your ass down before I plant a bullet in your skull.
Jack, sit down.
This ain't gonna end well, but...
Shit. Well, all right. Fucking bravo. Come on, lighten up. Have a whiff. Better. Now we can talk.
The bot. Need to see it.
Suit yourself. Fucking tricked out, state-of-the-art this thing. Don't even got no standard port. Bells and whistles though, dynamic camo armor and motor impulses rivaling that of the human nervous system. Its actuators are actually pimped with titanium fiber, and it can go anywhere, literally. Watch this. Fully integrated link too, so when the spider starts crawling up walls, dangling from ceilings, you could lose your lunch. So, what you think?
Pay up and let's get the fuck out of here.
The bot. I'll take it.
2 questions. What the fuck's going on? And who the fuck is this?
Got 50 large on this Kretchen.
And you positively reek of Militech.
Dexter Deshawn sent me.
Dexter Deshawn. Dreads. Gold plate. Fat old fuck. That him?
We'll pay for the bot and be on our way.
How much you say you had? 50K?
Creds on this.
Move it.
Woo, not the smoothest of deals, but it worked out in the end, right? Flathead's good gear. It'll do the trick. Whatever that trick is.
Shit. Shit, shit, shit!
It turns out the cred chip we got from the Militech agent contained a virus which fried their system.
Virus must have tripped security.
Royce, their leader, is making a break for it.
Militech had to end this way.
Before we figure out a way to leave, let's grab the splinter that controls the bot from one of these dead maelstromers. The inspection system allows us to take a closer look at the splinter. You can inspect specific items to reveal details that can help in solving quests. Okay, let's equip the splinter into our chipware slot. With this done, the bot will now follow us wherever we go. All right, what else do we have here? Nice! A street-modified tech shotgun. Tech weapons fire rounds that penetrate walls and other types of cover. They also have an alternate fire mode that allows you to power up shots and deal more damage. It looks like there are several ways out of this room, like those gates, for example. However, you'd have to be a skilled netrunner to hack into this terminal. Luckily, our engineering skills should allow us to disassemble that maintenance panel so we can get through the door.
Got it.
There are many skills in the game that players can apply in solving problems. The engineering skill can be used to fix, disassemble, and disarm devices blocking
Production
your
lane
path.
passes through here.
And we're gonna pass through with it.
So, from this point on, we're going to unlock the abilities of a high-end character to showcase some of the different mechanics we have in the game.
I'll get him.
One of the new weapon modules we now have installed is a ricochet targeting system connected to our eyes. This allows players to bounce bullets off walls and hit enemies hiding behind cover. This is another targeting system that will reveal enemies behind walls. Paired with the penetrating rounds of our tech shotgun, It's a deadly combination. Looks like we found some loot. This is a smart gun. It's one of the more advanced weapons in the game, allowing bullets to track and follow their target. It's one of many different weapons players can acquire. Weapons are built of modules that allow for deep customization and progression. This way, you can be sure to find something that will suit your playstyle.
Who's the toughest bastards guarding this route? Probably some reason for that.
Jesus Christ! My legs!
Just a reminder, everything you've seen and are about to see, including this particular feature we're about to show you, is from a work-in-progress version of the game and may change over the course of development.
Okay, all exits covered?
Okay, let's try something different. We're going to take this guy down and connect directly to his neural sign. In the world of Cyberpunk, once you are jacked into a network, you have access to everything it connects to. Through this Maelstrom gang member, we've now connected to the gang hideout's internal network. This is the building's personnel system. Let's focus on the squad containing the Maelstrom ganger we just connected to. From here, we can deploy software that affects the whole squad. For now, we'll simply unlock the ability to perform quick hacks. All right, time to show off our new high-level abilities. With Quick Hack, using the backdoor we unlocked a minute ago, we'll install a virus that jams the connection between the Maelstrom ganger and his weapon. This will prevent him from firing. Looks like he's having a problem now. Nice. Some of you might recognize these mantis blades. We can also double jump and bounce off of walls, which makes us a very agile, fast solo.
Check down here.
Sweet, we just found a corporate tech rifle. Corpo weapons are top of the line. Let's scan this guy and see what's going on. It looks like Royce is back, and he's prepped. He's got an armored exoskeleton. We won't be able to get rid of him that easily. Our weapons are not dealing a lot of damage because he's packing an autonomous shield. Luckily, the scan we performed earlier revealed a weak spot. Attacking it should bring the shield down. Shield's down. Let's finish him off.
Boy, it ain't going your way. you cunts!
Okay, let's put him down and get this job over. That wasn't the smoothest raid, but we've got the bot, and Dex should be happy. But think back. What would have happened if we hadn't met with the Militech agent? Or told Royce about the agent and her plans? Or just decided to buy the bot ourselves? So many options, so many possibilities, and each will have consequences that will ripple through the game world and your story. And that's just one quest. Let's head out and finish the job.
About goddamn time. Let's get out of here.
You know, we really ought to work together more often.
Your chip had the clap. That's not discreet. You set me up.
I fucked you over, you fucked the gang over. Somewhere at the start of the story, somebody fucked the Corp. See how this works now? Only the Corp gets what it wants. Remember that. Learn it. A couple years down the line, you'll be standing where I am, watching somebody else doing...
Yep, being a raging bitch to whoever's doing my dirty work for me.
It's time we were on our way, Ida.
Okay, let's call Dex and tell him how things went down.
My girl,
shit-eating
how's our
suits.
beard looking?
Vámonos.
Hey, Mr. Dex. Get us that table at the afterlife?
Matter of fact, I did. Just in my gut and all, you know.
Well, you were right to.
Well done, Missy. Well done. See you there.
Shit, I can't believe it, Ina. Major leagues. We're in. I mean, we fucking pried the door open.
But the only thing I want to pry open right now is a bottle of scotch.
Oh, no. Not another three-nighter. Por favor.
Need to get to know this city, Jack. Not just gun in hand. I want a crusade.
Amen, Ina.
We finished the job, but our story is just beginning. This concludes our gameplay demo walkthrough. Thanks for watching.
Cyberpunk Red is the next chapter, let's call it the next arc in the Cyberpunk storyline, okay? And it is basically about a period after the Fourth Corporate War and how basically everything gets rebuilt in that period to eventually end up in the world you'll see in 2077. If 2020 were Star Wars, then Cyberpunk Red is basically Empire Strikes Back, and then 77 is Return of the Jedi. We've always tended at Talsorian to look at the Cyberpunk series as though it's a comic book. And you know, comic books reset, have arcs, have changes and so forth like that. We've always seen it that way from the beginning. Even before I met the people over at CDPR, that was basically a tenet. Part of it is that in a role-playing game, at some point, characters and situations become static. RSI becomes too powerful to stop. Players become too powerful to stop. So you have to reset, but you have to find a smart way to do it. So Dave Ackerman and I sat down. Dave is my best friend. And he and I sat down and said, we got to get all these people out of the way, the Johnnies and everybody else, so that there's new blood. And we have to knock the tech level down. And we eventually settle on, we're going to blow everybody up, but we didn't want to throw the society all the way back to guys wearing hockey masks and leftover sports equipment driving around in wrecked cars.
That's Kiroshi. Best I've got. And should be about right under the circumstances.
We all agreed it was roughly between 2035 and 2045. as a rough period. During that time, people rebuild Night City. They move to abandoned cities across the United States and parts of Europe. They rebuild transit and society, but in novel and weird ways. And there's a big shakeup in terms of how the net works, how corporations work, and the role of the United States government in that world. One of the things that's evolved out of Red is it's a society that is coming out of essentially a technological, not apocalypse, but slowdown. Technological societies hinge on very, very specialized things always working. For example, you don't get cell phones until you can get rare elements, get them moved over to a factory, get them processed, get them made into chips, get those chips moved to another place on the planet, and then finally make a cell phone. But once you have made that cell phone, you can have millions and millions. There were like 2 billion cell phones put together last year. So what we have is, in the Fourth Corporate War, a lot of denial of transport and resources that knocked everybody back on their heels. No new stuff got built. A lot of things didn't get delivered. A lot of ships with tons and tons and tons and tons of stuff and cargo sat in harbors because they were afraid to leave because the harbors were mined. And a lot of the infrastructure got messed up. But if you need to get a cell phone, you didn't care about it being a new model of cell phone. There were 3 billion cell phones out there somewhere.
Thing is, Chip's gotta make it into the Thieves' Terminal. That's all I need. Think you can do that? Then we got a deal.
Basically, instead of wrecking a society as, a tremendous explosion, everything ended, we had to figure out ways to basically have it fall apart in slow motion so that people would still have cool technology. They just wouldn't have it ubiquitously. For example, in Cyberpunk Red, we have this idea called the night markets. And some of you are probably familiar with the idea of food trucks and food truck markets. A bunch of food trucks all come together. Everybody puts up the signs, a little bit like that. And I said, what if that's how things get done in the Red times? That you don't go to get a new gun by going to the Militech store, because there isn't a Militech store, because they're not getting shipments delivered anymore because the ship was sunk. Instead, some guy has now found a bunch of containers that have guns and Militech stuff or food or whatever, and they all meet and they have a night market. People buy things, fixers make deals, and then they disappear and pops up somewhere else the next night. Everything's a lot more fluid. How do you hold that together? Well, everybody's got phones. They're not the best phones, but they've got them. And maybe the phones can't reach into orbit anymore because the satellites were shot down, but you can still call anybody in town when you need to.
Nice. Ooh, I'll take that. That's a 16.
He's like, ah!
People should check it out, particularly if they haven't played a Cyberpunk game before, because I think it's going to be not just interesting, but the easiest, most accessible way to get into this type of genre. Red, for one thing, takes advantage of a lot of things I learned working in video games over the last 20 years, in terms of ease of play, simplifying things. We have given players, in terms of just rules, a lot more simplified options, and we have a graded situation where people can play as simple as they want or as complex as they want.
V, my man, you made it. You blowing up all over the news. Are you alone?
I just want the money.
Much of this we were designing long before I even met the CDPR guys, because we knew it sooner or later, well, we might want to have Johnny come back, so we can't exactly say, his guts were spilled everywhere. So we did a Marvel death. No one ever saw it for sure. It's been really fun because I get to see the interpretation, to be honest, of a group of Cyberpunk fans. The guys on the 2077 team, many of them were fans, grew up with those characters, and seeing those interpretations is like seeing a bunch of fans who are doing really, really cool, fanfic, really, but it's got the best toys and tools in the world to do it. One reason why Red ended up, we're doing what's called the Jumpstart pack, which is more of a beginner's simple pack first. But part of that is we also wanted to buy all the time because we were working with CD, and there's stuff buried all through the timelines in history that will have a bearing on what happens in 77. So it's a good place to mine for weird little clues. And remember, that's one of the things that we really enjoy doing is burying hints all over the place, so that if you're really paying attention, bam, one day it hits you. Oh man, they did that. Son of a gun.
Come on, Jaina, make the dock wait. Pull some pants on your culo and get down here. Subway entrance. Bring your iron.
Another thing is that it is a lot more accessible because you don't have to jump in and know all the characters. You're being part of the process that's making the new group of characters. So you could go into Red and never know who Johnny or Alden and those people were. It wouldn't matter. They would be like legends you might have heard about at some point, in the same way as nobody out here really probably remembers an Elvis concert. You know, we know Elvis did concerts, we've seen the films. How many people in our audience have actually gone to an Elvis concert? I haven't. So I think we've created a really interesting design that integrates cyberpunk in a modern way. And you don't have to have watched Blade Runner 800 times, even though I have, and I recommend you do. So basically, I think that what you'll find is if you really are curious about what makes up the background of the video game you're seeing, or you want to see how the genre works in a game that you can play, you should check Red out.
V, my man, you made it. You blowing up all over the news. Are you alone?
I just want the money.
You got the chip? All right, start her up, Bug. Why don't you go to the bathroom, wash up, we gonna be with you in a minute. What? Oh, come on, man. Your neck, it's a mess.
While hotel security has yet to comment, we do know the suspect seems to have fled the scene.
Initiating combat mode.
Go!
Destination confirmed.
Woo! That's what I'm talking about! Alright, in and out! We're rich! Oh, we are going to the major leagues, Jack! Jack?
No. Okay, get to a clinic now.
Mr. Wells' condition is critical.
Go!
Immediate medical
It's gonna
help
be
okay.
is required.
Just hold on.
Hey, just think about all the good that we're gonna have, huh?
I'm sorry.
Take the chip, Dex.
Every corporal cop in this city's gonna be blasting down these doors after what you and your psycho friend did. We didn't need all this tension, damn it.
Help me out! Wake the up, samurai. We have a city to burn.
Please welcome Keanu Reeves.
How's it going? Hello, Los Angeles! E3! Yeah. All right. Good to see you. Thank you. All right. All right. I gotta talk to you about something. We gotta talk to you about something. CD Projekt Red. Cyberpunk 2077. All right. A while back, the guys from CD Projekt Red approached me and asked me to be a part of their new project, Cyberpunk 2077. They were going on and on about how they'd create this vast open world with a branching storyline, how you'd be able to customize your character through in-game choices. And it's not something I knew before, but I was excited by. And I'm always drawn to fascinating stories. Cyberpunk is set in a metropolis of the future, where body modification has become an obsession. You play as an outlaw, an enhanced mercenary working in the sleazy underbelly of the city. Yeah. Okay, but let me tell you, the feeling of being there, of walking the streets of the future, is really going to be breathtaking. You're breathtaking. You're all breathtaking. All right. So, I guess I gotta finish this, so tell me. Do you guys want to know when the release date? Yeah. All right. Then check this out.
Ready now?
Whoa, hey, easy. Mr. Hansen, am I right for the job? Okay, I'm in.
You have gone through to the other side.
Let's do this.
Playing a rebel, a guy who, was in the ex-military, who started a rock band called Samurai, protest music. It sounded like fun.
Wake the up, samurai. We have a city to burn.
I met with CD Projekt Red in July of last year, 2018, here in Los Angeles, and they showed me a short demo and introduced me to the idea of playing the character Johnny Silverhand. And so they walked me through the concept of the game and some of the elements and the biography of the character, and it sounded great to me, I'm not a Johnny Silverhand lore expert. At the original time, I read a little bit, but for them, they were like, be here now, like this is what we're doing. So Maybe I need to brush up on that, but I don't know how much I'm at liberty to say. I think it's okay to say that there was a moment of maybe death. But I'm still around.
That's what I'm talking about! All right, in and out!
They're letting me collaborate a little bit with just the tone and how would your version of Johnny say it, you know, and move. So going through the whole mocap was really great to be able to give a physical embodiment to the character, you know, and really personalize it. So that it was part of the attraction for me was that I was actually not only just my face, but, you know, like they were asking me to perform a role. And a cool one. So, and I really love the format of the game and some of the questions it asks and what's revealed and what it demands of the player. There's some interesting choices that have to get made. For me, the technology of motion capture has gotten a little quicker. It's a little, you know, sometimes it's a little, like when I first did face capture, I think it was like an array of cameras, and it was like in a blacked out, like in a tent, and it was like, you know, it was a huge deal that there were 5 terabytes. They had 5 terabytes available to do this capture, and it was like almost like it felt like some like black ops thing. Like, okay, this is super secret hardware doing super secret tech stuff, and it probably was, right? We don't really know how long. CG manipulation. Anyway, what was the point? I got off track.
Every corporal cop in this city is gonna be blasting down these doors after what you and your psycho friend did.
I've got a couple of people that I've worked with who have done voices in games, and I hadn't done that yet. For me, I was attracted to the storytelling, like the different versions, you know. It's kind of like not just choose your own end, but choose your own path in a weird way. I thought that was cool. Because there's so many multiple player games, and you can play all over the world. This one's kind of like your own private, almost cinematic experience. Even reading, it's almost like literature in a weird way, right? Like you're participating in this open world, but it's your story, your choices. My character, Johnny, interacts with the role player, whoever's playing. The character's name is V in the game. And so there's I interact with whoever's playing that, and I'm part of their journey. But they're also a part of mine. So, you know, we're gonna see what happens.
We all have to wait until next April to properly dive into the world of Cyberpunk 2077, but in the meantime, here is the next best thing, a guided tour of the latest E3 trailer from one of the people making the game. I'm joined right now by Pavel Sasko from CD Projekt Red. He is the lead quest designer, and then there's Tom Marks, who got to see the demo at E3, which I haven't seen yet because I've been sitting on this stage.
Can't win them all.
Now, we have this whole trailer here, which is very cool. There's obviously a lot to unpack. You make very dense, kind of intricate trailers, and I figured you could kind of show us through it and point out some stuff we might.
I'd love to. I mean, there's so much stuff to unpack, so we can get right through it. I mean, I can talk about it about 4 hours, so let's just unleash me.
So, all right, so I think we should have this any second. Here we go. We are in Night City. Can you tell us a bit about sort of the different districts of Night City?
Oh man, so in the game we have 8 different districts, and the player will be able to visit all of them. They are like they're completely different. Like there are districts like you could have seen in the previous demo, Watson, which is like almost the poorest district in the whole city. But there is, for instance, the Corpo Plaza. That's the district where the nuke struck in 2020. So this is Mike Pondsmith, who's to be blamed for that. And that part has been rebuilt like greatly. And there are like those gigantic buildings, created by corporations. Those are like sculptures, showing their power almost, and you have an absolutely different atmosphere there than in Watson, for instance, right? In a demo that Tom has shown, you can see another one, right? That was a Pacifica.
Yeah, we saw Pacifica in the gameplay demo that almost felt like a really
like run-down boardwalk area from obviously very futuristic, and like there was like a ruined Ferris wheel, and it was pretty crazy.
Okay, so what's up with the No-Tell Motel? Tell me about the significance.
Oh yeah, I mean, No-Tell Motel is a very specific place. So in the world of Cyberpunk, if you want to have a shady deal, you like go to the place where nobody can spot you. And basically, this is a place that is run by AI, and there is no humans who are running this place. So pretty much nobody knows that you're there. And No-Tell Motel is a place where like people are making deals, and they're like scheduling meetings there together to like discuss things and so on. And our main character, V, has a scheduled meeting there with Dex. Well, schedule is maybe a big word. Like he's supposed to show up there and tell them what has happened regarding the deal.
Okay, and so V and Dex are having this deal here. We saw Dex previously. Can we talk about this guy? Do we know, is this his bodyguard?
Yeah, this is one of the bodyguards. Like, I mean, he's heavily augmented. You can see basically the cyberware that he has in his neck. It's a reflex booster, and also something that strengthens his his core of his spine.
Okay, I like that. Like the cyberpunk sort of technology does a really good job of kind of supporting a lot of video game systems we've gotten very used to.
Yeah. We always make sure that everything is like ingrained. You know, like so as in the previous demo, we have shown that when you had Kiroshi optics installed, you get the scanner, then you get the weapon grip installed, you get the the weapon counter. So all of that is always like we try to find the spots and places.
Now here we've got V has this chip. In
his head. So the chip is extremely important for the main story, so I need to be careful not to spoil absolutely the most important parts of the game. But the chip is something that the V has been sent for to brought in for Dex, and it didn't really work out the way it should be, right? Something happened, and this is very experimental technology.
And the chip actually was a big part of, and again, I won't spoil anything either, but it was a big part of the demo we saw. So this trailer is actually basically just a cutscene that comes pretty much before what we play, or not played, but saw.
So actually in the game, this is a part of the game. Like in the game, you will be actually able to play the quest that tells this story that we were just watching. Like this trailer is a third-person perspective trailer of that quest that you'll be able to play.
Gotcha. So it's not an exact cutscene.
I was gonna ask sort of, comparatively, you guys showed off the Killing Monsters trailer for Witcher 3 a while back, which was sort of, it was a very, very polished kind of representation of one of those quests. Would you say this is sort of a similar situation?
Yes, it is a similar situation, but this one is way closer because it tells the story from the game, an actual one, a very important one. Oh, and right now we have on the shot Delamain. Delamain is a corporate, is a car, pretty much. He's an AI that runs basically taxis in a night city, and you can get the Delamain taxi, and this is a car that can enter a combat mode. So basically, if you want to do something that you will need a protection against the firepower, you get Delamain. He arrives there, and you sign up the contract with him, and he's ought to protect you, right? And here in the trailer, he says that Jackie is in a critical state, and he requires instant assistance, instant medical assistance, right? And you can see, and the relationship between you and Delamain is also developed in the game way more.
So
and
he's like a self-driving Uber tank that is your friend.
Exactly. That's
I'm into
exactly what it is.
Right on.
Right on.
So right out here, obviously everything goes sideways. How does the combat choreography sort of, how does that compare to how it is in the game?
Oh man, I mean, so it's super interesting. So for the combat here, we are using the company of the stuntman that we've been using since Witcher 1. It's Maciej Kwiatkowski, the guy who did all the animations for Geralt. So he's V here. And this guy is amazing. He can fight with fucking everything, like that you can come up with, literally. And we've been making sure that that the choreography is set up in a way that this big guy, the Dex's bodyguard, is like breaking up the blade in a way that there's no physical way for V to protect himself, right? You can see the gorilla arms that the guy has installed. This is also something that we've shown in the demo this year. And yeah, you can see that at the moment when the gorilla arms...
If you were to fight a cyborg with actual knife hands, this would be like a good way to actually go about it. This is a realistic representation, and this is
yeah,
it gets very sad here.
Exactly.
We got a shot here. After all this, we got a shot of Dex's assistant, who's behind that box there. What's up with her?
Yeah, so she's T-Buck. She's one of our supporters, and well, I mean, it turns out that she was not entirely having our back. And what she does here, she presents one of the skills of the Netrunner, and she's hacking us. The thing is that she has access to our network because before we've been hooked up. It's the quest that you will play up in the game, so you'll find out why and what happened. But basically, we were together in one network, and she is able now access our network and start hacking our cyberware. And she starts, as you see, like she basically forces these Mantis blade to like collapse, you know, and go back. But of course, these manages to shoot her.
Okay, so finally, the big reveal, in addition to, I don't know, a release date and a kick-ass video game, was that you put Keanu Reeves in it, and he's playing Johnny Silverhand.
Yes. Johnny Silverhand is the frontman of a samurai band. It's like an iconic chrome rock band from 2020. And
he's a literal, like a cyberpunk rocker, basically.
Exactly, exactly. He's presenting a class of a rocker boy in the game. And Johnny Silverhand is an extremely important character in the game. He's like a primary character. Tom already saw the way he's like sort of utilized in the game, you know, what his role is. But it starts off very early in the game, and it's developed throughout the whole game. And depending on your choices and what you do and so on, you will forge your relationship with him. And thing is, he's not always a nice guy. He has his own agenda, and you will have to be on the look for it.
Hold on. You're telling me that Keanu Reeves is not always a nice guy? I don't know how realistic this game is. This Cyberpunk, this seems, I don't know. You guys obviously watch Johnny Mnemonic, though. You got somebody with a chip in his head, and Keanu Reeves is running around.
Exactly.
I'm into it.
Yeah.
I have one final question. The original Cyberpunk pen and paper game, first edition, is called 2013. That is the year that you revealed that first trailer. Cyberpunk second edition is called Cyberpunk 2020. Cyberpunk 2077 is coming out in 2020. Have you guys known you were launching in 2020 for this long? Was that intentional? Did you do that? Was that?
Well, we do most of the things intentional. I would say like that.
Oh, man. Well, it's a great mystery. Cyberpunk 2077 is coming to PC, Xbox One, and PS4 on March 16th, 2020. Finally!
Hey everybody, Max Scoville and Tom Marks here at E3 2019. Cyberpunk 2077 is without question one of the biggest games of the year. I am dying to play it. It has a release date, and you little punk, got to see it behind closed doors.
Yeah,
Tell me about it.
I saw about 50 more minutes of it in the behind closed doors demo that they showed off this year. It was extremely similar in structure to last year's demo, which they released the footage of after Gamescom, I believe, but completely new footage. So this one was actually from the middle of the game, and I think the first thing I want to talk about is Keanu Reeves' character, Johnny Silverhand, is like kind of basically Cyberpunk's Cortana. He's just this AI, not AI, it's like a ghost of a human consciousness that's in your head, and so he's talking to you throughout the game, and as far as I understand, no one else can see him or talk to him.
Okay, that's extremely Neuromancer, and I'm pretty into it.
And he'll pop up occasionally, like if you're talking to somebody else, he'll like be behind them just chilling.
But Keanu Reeves is basically throughout the entire game? Scattered around maybe, but...
I don't think you meet him immediately, but I talked to one of the developers at CD Projekt Red, and they said he is a significant part of the game, and he's kind of, that's how he's with you, is
but
just through your brain.
But he's not just a marketing stunt.
No, I don't think so. I think he's basically like the little voice that goes with you on missions.
That makes me very happy to hear.
Yeah.
Now, what about sort of the structure of the mission you saw? Like, tell me a little bit about the gameplay.
So the structure was, and we're gonna get into like minor spoilers here, but it's just what they showed in the demo. You had to go meet up with a gang called the Voodoo Boys, I believe they were called. And they're basically a group of like hacker netrunners, and you have a chip in your brain that you was put there unwillingly, and you're trying to find out information about it. So you're trying to track down I believe the head of the Voodoo Boys to then tell you about this chip, but to find her, you have to break into this mall facility for them that's taken over by another gang called the Animals. And then you find out that the Animals are actually being fed really good tech from these other people, and the Animals are basically like roid juicers. Like, they're these crazy hulked out dudes.
Ooh.
Yeah.
God, I'm so excited about this game.
Yeah, and then the mission itself, we went through stealthily, but they did this really cool thing where we went through the entire thing as like a netrunner hacker stealthily, and then they stopped and they were like, okay, we're gonna jump back as a strength character. And then they went through that same section as a strength character, where instead of like hacking a door to get through it, they would like rip it open.
Okay.
And at one point, instead of hacking a turret to like fight for you, they just ripped it off the base and used it as a gun.
That rules. I'm getting some sort of Deus Ex vibes here, because I remember when they were promoting, with Human Revolution, the first new one. They kind of did the same thing where it's like, you can play loud or quiet, whichever you want. But I feel like in this case, it's being also a game where you create your own character. They're really just kind of demonstrating how much choice there is.
Yeah, and there is, for those of you wondering, there is a hacking minigame. There is a hacking minigame.
How does it look?
Not bad, but it's hard to tell when you're not actually doing it. It's
not like a BioShock slime puzzle or anything?
No, it's not a line puzzle. It's like a grid of what looks like hex code, like, like a letter and a number, and you have to like pick out the right ones, but it was kind of unclear how you determine which ones are the right ones.
So a little more like Fallout hacking type stuff?
Yeah, and if you do well enough, like if you just do the baseline, it'll like let you access whatever network you're trying to access, but then you have these like optional objectives where if you like do even better, you can like get a little more bonuses beyond that.
Interesting. Now, one thing I noticed in the sort of trailer they showed off, they had they demonstrated that V has like some knife hands.
Yeah.
I feel like that's sort of a nice kind of counterbalance to the amount of gunplay we saw in the last demo. Did they show anything off like that? Was it more an emphasis on melee, maybe for the stealth stuff, or?
There was this really cool thing called the mono wire, which was basically like he was holding it kind of like a laser garrote, right? And he would like whip it at people and like arms would fly off. Like
when's the last time you watched Johnny Mnemonic, dude?
Long time ago.
Okay, you should probably go watch Johnny Mnemonic because it's about Keanu Reeves having a chip in his head that he doesn't want there, and he fights a guy who has a garrote wire made out of lasers.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, everybody go home and read some William Gibson, please. Watch Johnny Mnemonic.
That will also let you hack from afar. So if you whip it into somebody, you can like you saw in the last gameplay demo they did, you could like jump on someone and hack them, but this will actually let you do it from afar. We also saw a fight where this guy tried to melee somebody well, and it like didn't go right, and so he like picked up a broken bottle and was just like slicing a dude with it.
Oh my God.
There was also a boss fight at the end of this encounter where it was like this person who just had this huge hammer, and they had a weak point on their back where it was like what was feeding them their like roid juice, and so you had to like dodge around their hammer and then like shoot that point, and once that was broken, they couldn't pick up the hammer anymore, so they had to like fight you a different way. And this was a really cool moment, if I may. At that point, the person grabbed you and grappled you, and the demo guy was like, so the enemy's hacking you right now. And the person who's helping you on the other end, who's the guy, for the voodoo guy you were trying to like work with, is like defending the hack, and a bar filled up on the top of the screen, and they were like, if that bar fills up and they hack you, you're gonna die. So you have to finish this fight before the hack is done. And like,
okay.
Yeah, it just had a lot of weird, cool things like that.
So obviously a lot of people were really impressed by the demo last year, but there's still that level of like, I don't know if this is a video game yet. I don't quite believe it. Did you feel like this was more grounded, more of like a playable kind of?
My ultimate takeaway from this demo was it was not nearly as blow me away exciting as last year. It wasn't like oh my God, this is
last
incredible.
Last year was a complete surprise.
Exactly. This wasn't knocking my socks off or anything, but it did 100%. It just felt like an actual game now. It felt like, okay, I can see how I will play this. I can see how I go through this world. I understand how I take quests. I understand how I go to stores and buy things. Like they showed off a little bit of that. It felt more tangible than it did last year.
Now, a lot of people have pointed out the graphics in the demo last year were just like unrealistically impressive. I know people have concerns about sort of this getting downgraded. Do you see this looking this good when it comes out on current gen hardware?
Yeah, I'm sure that they will be tuning some things down, right? Because vertical slices are vertical slices, but what they showed looked really, really good.
Yeah.
Like it just still did. The lighting is really nice. There was a nice like sunset at one point with the day-night cycle. They said there's no loading screens unless you'd use fast travel, so you're just like, they got on a motorcycle and just like driving through the city, and it was like pretty cool. I will say, the driving did not look impressive. Like the motorcycle driving was very arcadey and stiff. So
but you saw a motorcycle?
There was a motorcycle. The motorcycle was the red motorcycle that's in the collector's edition, actually.
Oh my goodness.
I was riding that.
You know what else has a red motorcycle? Akira, a cyberpunk classic. Dear God, I'm excited about this game. Tom, thank you for telling me about it, and also, you for seeing it. I want to go see it. Hopefully I get to see it. We're seeing lots of games here at E3 2019, so stick around. I love Cyberpunk, and I love Tom Marks.
What's up, everybody? Destin Legary here at Gamescom 2019. Matt Purslow is joining me today.
Hi there.
Guess what game we're going to talk about?
I think it might be Cyberpunk 2077.
It is definitely Cyberpunk 2077. You're correct. You won. So what we're going to talk about is what they're showing at Gamescom. Now, what they're showing is a stealth/strength build. Go through an infiltration mission. Take us through the setup to all of this, if you remember.
Right, so we're in a place called Pacifica, which is it's a slightly more rundown area of the city. Now, we all know that Night City is fairly rundown, so this is the worst of the worst, it seems to be. And we're infiltrating this area, and basically the demo kind of cuts between two different builds, so we get to see basically from how you go in all guns blazing to how you go in as a net runner, which is a much more stealthy build. And it was really nice to see the contrast between the two sides that you can play as. I mean, this is just two sides of how you play the game anyway, out of what is presumably a multitude of different types of builds you can do.
Yeah, I mean, we know that you're going to be able to spec your character however you want. And if you don't like that, you can give it another shot. Alternatively, net running was really, really powerful, and I was really, really happy to see that because I love playing stealth. What is your main play style? Do you do stealth or guns blazing?
So I tend to be a bit of I'm really into immersive sim, so Dishonored is kind of in my blood now. So I think looking at the way that that net runner works was very much like, oh, this is how I want to play. But also seeing strength builds and how sort of like the different, like going in with the different weaponry that this this setting allows you to use. You know, you've got guns that can literally, like, you can tag people, and you've got homing bullets like the gun from Fifth Element, and like being able to do that is like, oh wait, but can I create a build that allows me to do both? And I'm looking forward to trying all of that out.
Yeah, the strength build, he like rips a turret and takes out the gun, then just mows down the animals basically, that they're the class that we're fighting in the stealth infiltration mission.
Actual animals that should be fighting this. So at least so far we've not seen physical beasts in the game, but yeah, it's seeing those animals points out like there's going to be quite clearly lots of different clans in the game and lots of different types of people to fight. So I'm looking forward to having that almost that fantasy RPG element come into it, but through a cyberpunk lens.
For sure. I have to ask you, Keanu Reeves was a big reveal at E3 2019. What do you think of that character and his implementation? He, of course, plays Johnny Silverhand, and he's like a voice in your ear. Do you like that? Are you enjoying that?
So I think kind of like Johnny Silverhand is such an important element of the tabletop game, and so it's nice that he's in there, and I think it's great that they've chosen Keanu. I'm hoping that he's not too much of an overpowering presence, because the idea of just having effectively Neo from the Matrix just keep turning up could be a distraction from what is a game that doesn't have all of the celebrity sort of elements to it. The way that they're using him as kind of almost like a narrator for you, like perhaps even like a Jiminy Cricket that sits in your head that allows you to sort of like, should you be doing this, should you be doing that? As long as it is kept low-key, I think it will work.
They also revealed that it's coming to Stadia here at Gamescom. Are you going to try out Stadia? Like I'm sure you will for work, but are you going to buy one for personal use?
It's one of these things where like I've been a PC gamer all my life and I've always been investing money into a PC. And so at the moment I don't feel necessarily the need, but I'm fascinated to see the idea of like, can I just stop buying upgrades for my PC and just have a Stadia package? If Cyberpunk runs as well as it should do on the massive data center that Google have, and there's no latency to my personal devices, then I'm kind of very interested to see what happens there.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Cyberpunk, I want that on my PC. I'm definitely, so like I can upgrade my PC. And NVIDIA also revealed that they're gonna be adding ray tracing to the game, so I wanna be able to utilize those special effects and just enhance lighting abilities that those cards have. I know this more than anything. Cyberpunk 2077 is a game I am gonna know life. It will be the game I play every day, probably for a month. Are you gonna do the same?
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is it's coming out at a period where the month before we'll have had like Watch Dogs, we'll have had the Final Fantasy VII Remake. It looks like an amazing period for games, but I can see that Cyberpunk is going to be the one that makes you put everything down. It's like, this is the game for the year, and I'll be surprised if anything turns up that is more impressive next year. But hey, it's an amazing time for games. Maybe that game will turn up, who knows?
Of course, thank you so much, Matt. Time will tell if Cyberpunk ends up being that game for everybody. I think we already know the answer. But for more on all things Cyberpunk 2077, keep it right here at IGN and with us at Gamescom 2019.
Ready now?
Whoa, hey, easy. Mr. Hand sent me. Am I right for the job? Okay, I'm in.
Few have gone through to the other side.
Let's do this.
Welcome. My name is Holly and I'm the UK Head of Communication here at CD Projekt Red, and I will be your host for today as we take a deep dive into Cyberpunk 2077. We're going to be showing you a video with new gameplay and new gameplay mechanics, and afterwards I'll be joined by three of our developers, Miles, Philip and Pavel, as we take a closer look at some of the things you're going to see and hopefully answer some of your questions. On behalf of everybody at CD Projekt Red, we're incredibly excited to share this new look at Cyberpunk 2077 with you.
Hey V, you alright?
Let's do this.
Keep out with this shit.
Okay. What now? Barry. Johnny.
Barry. On a plancher.
Where are we? Our BBS, Data Fortress. Bridge to the deep net. Beyond, there are no borders. Beyond the black wall.
Welcome to the Cyberpunk 2077 2019 Deep Dive video. In last year's gameplay reveal, we showed you our vision for the world of Cyberpunk 2077, its quests, and visual design. This year, we'd like to give you a peek at some of the playstyles you'll be able to adopt as your character progresses through the story.
Here goes nothing.
You're about to see sequences embodying two distinct approaches to playing Cyberpunk. We'll show you a strong solo build, that is, a character who focuses on employing blunt force and taking instant action, and a Netrunner build, a playstyle taking frequent advantage of stealth tactics, hacking, and battlefield control achieved using malicious software. Additionally, you'll learn more about Pacifica, one of the game's districts, two gangs, the Animals and the Voodoo Boys, and you'll see glimpses of Johnny Silverhand, the digital construct who haunts our main character, V. A word of caution. Given that the video covers a section of the game deep into the main storyline, we have edited the footage to contain as few spoilers as possible. Be aware that the gameplay as presented does reveal characters and locations you'll see while playing the game's main story arc. So watch at your own discretion.
Where are we headed?
As Peralez's campaign promised, quote,
This way.
In this video, you'll experience a segment of a quest from the middle of the game. We're currently in Pacifica, one of Night City's 6 unique districts.
You know Pacifica well? Nah. You guys aren't exactly great at rolling out the welcome mat for outsiders.
It was designed to be a tourist hotspot within the city. As you can see, this didn't pan out. When uncertainty struck the global economy, investors pulled their funding, leaving most establishments unfinished. It's one of those places where expectations and reality collided, resulting in a heap of disappointment. Ongoing gang wars plague this part of the city. Outsiders don't come here if they don't have to. Even by Night City's standards, it's dangerous to those unfamiliar with it. Taking a casual stroll here would not be a good idea. A fast motorbike or armor-plated car would be the safer option. But places like this have their advantages. If you're in need of rare goods or illegal cyberware, Pacifica's bustling local markets are a good place to start your search. The Grand Imperial Mall is a whole other story. It was one of the last developments in Pacifica to lose its funding. Until recently it stood vacant, but now a gang called the Animals has moved in for reasons unknown.
Something's not going right for the big guy up top.
And that's what we need to learn in order to earn the trust of the Voodoo Boys, the Animals' rivals.
What the hell? Could fucking tell me what you plan to do first.
You take job. You do what I say. So you check in now.
Of the many gangs in Cyberpunk 2077, the Voodoo Boys are the most skilled at using the net.
You have now seen Pedrezo Agüe, our subnet.
Why? What for?
You are my vessel now. Through Agüe, I see what you see, hear what you hear.
This mysterious gang of highly skilled netrunners has close ties to the local Haitian community.
URV, we have been waiting.
Haitians settled in Pacifica in the 2060s after natural disasters struck their island and forced them to emigrate en masse. The Voodoo Boys gang formed around this same time, though at a smaller scale. Now the gang effectively rules Pacifica. The Voodoo Boys don't usually work with outsiders. Lucky for us, it seems they're prepared to make an exception this time.
Mr. Hand sent me. Said you got merc work needs doing.
Still, to earn their trust, we need to prove our worth. Placide, one of the Voodoo Boys' higher-ups, has offered us a mission. We need to infiltrate the Grand Imperial Mall, currently occupied by the Voodoo Boys' deadly enemy, a gang called the Animals.
20:35:07. 3 seconds before, poof, the camionette. We try to learn where the camionette come from.
The Animals are not your normal gang. Their presence in Pacifica is suspicious. They value might above all else and wear melee combat implants to raise their prowess in combat. Their beverage of choice is juice, a potent strength and speed-enhancing concoction. As sought-after bouncers, they're usually dispersed throughout town. As skilled street-level business types, they've cornered the market in illegal substances and underground live-or-die prize fights. When they converge in one spot, it's for something big. It's then they appoint the fastest and strongest among them as their ad hoc leader. In this case, it's a woman named Sasquatch.
Said you wanted my bed. No. As far as I remember, you said no bone brain buffaloes on steroids. Afraid that's the cost of doing biz.
This is the tech Placide was talking about. It seems non-standard for the Animals. And this is where we come in. Getting to the van won't be easy, but we're more than qualified for the job, which we can complete in one of many ways. The character creation in Cyberpunk 2077 is the kind you'd expect from a full-fledged RPG. You start by choosing your past, important because this unlocks special options at important story junctures. You also fully customize your character using a deep customization system that spans not only your look and style, but also your abilities. Cyberpunk 2077 does not feature fixed classes. Instead, it has a fluid class system that allows players to mix and match a wide range of abilities to suit their playstyles. You can create a strong solo character, a skilled netrunner, or any other hybrid class you can imagine. Let's see how a solo playstyle in Cyberpunk 2077 might work. Solos prefer a direct approach. They use guns and might to get things done. So let's wreak some havoc. With our enhanced strength, we can strip this turret of its weapons and give the Animals a taste of their own medicine. This is how a player investing in solo abilities might live out their Terminator power fantasy. Enhanced strength lets us force open doors, or grab enemies to use as human shields. We also gain access to powerful melee combat cyberware. So even someone as fast and strong as Sasquatch, the leader of this group of animals, is not impossible to beat for a solo. But Sasquatch has a different game plan. She's out to jack in and hack us. Let's see how this plays out.
Ready for some fun? Proceed. What's going on?
Trying to scramble you. Deal with him.
It's our choice if we want to finish her off or spare her. You're Cyberpunk, your rules. If you'd rather sneak around, hide, and strike from the shadows, no problem. Just develop your net running skills to get around obstacles or hack into enemy tech to have it do the dirty work for you. Net running abilities mean hacking skills that let us use our cyber deck to breach access points. For this, we fill the buffer of our cyber deck with a string of instructions represented by these letters and numbers. Matching the instructions for basic access grants us control of devices connected to this network. The more instructions we match, the more control we gain over elements in the network. We can hack our way through in numerous ways. A quick hack may grant us control of the security camera. Another one should let us tweak the difficulty of the training bot to create a distraction. With our nanowire, we can even hack this guy's implants from a distance. In this world, almost everything is connected to a local network. And that means it can be hacked.
Ours is a wolf.
Which brings us back to cyberspace. You don't get to do anything in the net unnoticed. There's always someone watching. It could be Corpos, or even worse, it could be Netwatch. And that is exactly the case here.
Who is they?
Netwatch. They always out to fuck us.
Netwatch and the Voodoo Boys are like fire and ice. The first of these wants to maintain the old order and protect people from AI anarchy originating from beyond the Black Wall. The Voodoo Boys want to establish contact with the free AIs. They believe this will enable their boundless expansion on the net and grant them the upper hand over Netwatch. Netwatch sees this as the end of the world. Both are right.
Whoa, hey.
How you deal with the Netwatch agent is entirely up to you. Do we side with the gang? Choosing to be on Netwatch's bad side is never wise. But can we really trust the Voodoo Boys?
You set me up!
As you can see, we have many possible options. But in each case, we take a risk.
Think I'll just stick to my plan.
Out well. In the world of cyberpunk, few things go as planned. And that was just a glimpse of how complex the branching storyline in Cyberpunk 2077 can get. Every decision you make will have consequences. Your choices will shape how the world reacts to you and affect your relationships with those around you. One of those relationships is special. Ever heard of Johnny Silverhand? A rebel rocker boy who will be your companion throughout your adventure in Night City?
Come on, really think they give a rat's dick how you look?
Like everyone in Cyberpunk 2077, he has his own agenda. You'll decide if he'll be your ally or your enemy. And that chip in your head, the one thanks to which Johnny lives inside your mind, well, that's a story for another time.
welcome back. Now, following the deep dive, there is an awful lot to talk about, so I found 3 of the very best. Oh, you look so happy. But I think just in case people aren't super familiar with Cyberpunk 2077, why don't you introduce yourself one by one so everybody knows who they're listening to?
Hey, I'm Miles. I'm one of the level designers at CD Projekt Red.
Hello, I'm Paweł, and I'm a lead of the Quest team, and it's a great pleasure to be talking to you.
So I'm Philip, and I'm one of their Quest designers, so I work really closely with Paweł over here.
Oh, thank you guys for being my my participants in this video. Let's get started, because the last demo we saw took place in Watson. This time we're in Pacifica. They're very different, and that's super important for Night City, that it feels different. So what do you need to consider as a level designer when you're building a place like this?
All right, we are diving right into it.
Let's go. People want to know answers.
Okay, I'm going. So, from a level design point of view, for us it's really important to create these districts, the 6 ones that we have in Night City, to be as different as possible without making it unbelievable, right? And we sort of orient ourselves around sort of how we approached, let's say, Skellige and Novigrad No Man's Land in The Witcher 3. So we're sort of aiming for a very noticeable difference. And this has multiple purposes, right? First off, we want to enhance the variety in the game, right? It would be kind of boring just to have a lot of the same throughout the entire city. We have one cityscape, so we need to create this kind of variety, and that's actually a really fun creative process as well. And secondly, we need it as a navigational tool. That means that when you as a player move around the city, you should know where you are simply by looking around. And thankfully, there's a lot of lore that we can sort of dissect and make our own that helps us around, but we also add our own sort of twists to the whole thing, right? So in terms of Pacifica, we know that it's pretty fucked up place, if I can say so. And what I mean with that is that it's pretty noticeable that it's almost post-apocalyptic, right? The district has a rich history that caused it to basically fall into disarray after it was initially meant to become the city's crown jewel of tourism. But clearly, as you can see from the footage, that actually didn't quite work out that way. And now you'll actually see things like burning cars on the streets, right? And it's very deserted. So much unlike Watson that we showed last year, where the streets are bustling with people, here there's way less. Because it's simply a very dangerous place that you don't want to really go if you don't have to. And again, that's one of these things that once you enter the district from the rest of Night City, you'll actually notice that, right? And of course, all the destruction going on and all of the, suffering and pain.
Our favorite
and
things.
Violence, as it were.
So what kind of things are exclusive to Pacifica? Because you don't want people to just come for the quest and then leave and that's it. You want people to keep coming back to this district. So what can people find there?
This is what I meant when I said it's a very fun process to think of these kind of things, because these sort of characteristics that we give the district directly sort of birth the things that you can find there, right? And amongst the destruction, you'll still find people living there. Right, Pacifica is inhabited by a large Haitian community, and each district sort of has a kind of dominant gang who has taken over there. In the case of Pacifica, that would be the Voodoo Boys. And unlike the Maelstromers that we saw last year, the Voodoo Boys are actually deeply ingrained within the community that lives there, and they actually They're not your typical sort of street gang in the sense that they don't really bring a lot of gunpowder to fight themselves, but they actually specialize in cyberspace. They're obsessed with the mysteries of cyberspace. They've sort of almost made it their own religion, if you will. And they have the reputation of being the best netrunners that you can find in Night City. And it's a very cool gang that V, of course, our main protagonist, will interact with in several ways. How? You will have to find out. And I mean, that's just one of many, many different ways you'll really experience Pacifica. As I said, all of these things together, the culture, the visuals, the architecture, and the history, really, will be very distinct to the district. At the same time, we're of course trying really hard to not make it feel disconnected, right? There's always a link. It should always be believable. That's one of the sort of core pillars that we build everything on. But this will make it for a very unique experience when you delve an adventure in this district compared to others.
And when looking at the stories that we'll be telling in this exact district, we always make sure that it always fits to the environment, to what we want to build. So, you know, the street stories that you will find, their side quests, and the main quest that is actually placed there, it always tells the story of the community, of the people, of the characters that are living there. And the Haitian community, right, they arrived actually in Night City because of the environmental changes that were happening in the world. Haiti is actually completely flooded, and they have left it. They arrived to Night City to build the district that Miles just talked about, and they were left out at the moment when the corporations withdrawn all the funding from the Pacifica. They were left there and they built their own community there, and they gave the seed. They become the seed for all the stories that we're telling there. So as a player, when you're like investing, meeting all those characters and talking to them, you actually find out and learn more about them, you know, through the quests.
Perfect, but let's talk about the mall we just saw in the deep dive video, because that's not linear.
No.
So how do you design a non-linear level? You've got the building, you're thinking, right, well, the person who's playing on their game, they might have a more techie style of playthrough, but this person might want to go in all guns blazing. How do you design levels for all these different play styles? Anything's possible.
Yes, yeah, we do give the player a lot of different tools to use as he goes through a level, and that makes designing these things quite complex, I will say. But, you know, just to sort of understand our mentality, I can actually, I'll attempt, maybe you'll help me out with this one, to go back in our development, well, sometime. and to really sort of, we came up with this example to sort of establish this kind of mentality that we wanted to have when we approached our level designs and the way we do our encounters, right? And the example was rather simple. The goal was for a player to go from one room to another. But the main way to go from that one room to another would be sort of like a door. And be it through like a scanner or a device, it doesn't really matter for the example actually. Going through this door would ultimately result in the player losing his weapons, but the task was to actually kill a person on the other side of that door, right? Now, we use this sort of example to sit down and think, okay, how will we do this in all these kind of different play styles, right? So perhaps, you know, one way would be to, you know, convince a guard that would be stationed next to the door, just let you through, right? Through like sort of like a social kind of path, or you could take the guy out, take, I don't know, like a pass that would enable you to go through the door without actually letting go of your gun. Maybe if you are invested as a melee character, it actually doesn't really matter to you. You just walk through the door and then punch the guy on the other side into like a pile of blood. Or maybe as a kind of hacker type of character, you try to find a way to breach the network, to disable the device, right, the scanner that would prevent your weapons from usage, allowing you to move through and then use your guns on whatever your target is. Maybe as a kind of fast solo kind of character, you'd be able to jump out of the window onto a windowsill, double jump to the, you know, like a balcony, and then enter through the window there. And the list goes on and on with examples that we try to come up for this kind of door. And it's sort of, again, it's just to showcase how we sort of think about these levels, right? As you know, putting in a problem that the player has to solve. And we give them a lot of different tools and possibilities to solve this issue or bypass it in their own way. And that is how we're hoping to really create an experience for the player that they feel inherently is their own, right? They came up with a solution given the systems that we gave them, and they really get to feel like the badass cyberpunk V that we want them to feel like.
It's actually also a lot of fun to work on this from a story perspective, because, you know, as an example on the Wild Hunt, we were already working with very non-linear stories, but now we also have this non-linear gameplay approach. And for us, it was always really important to have these choices and consequences. And we did them in the story. You know, anything should matter somehow. But now we can also say, okay, players have all of these different choices to solve a situation. So of course, there should also sometimes be some consequences, and not just on the gameplay side, how you solve it, but of course, the story should react to it. Do I just run into this room and kill a few guys, or do I, choose a super different approach? Sometimes this can now open up a completely new way to go through a quest. So, it actually, I think it added to this whole layer of non-linearity. It added quite a few, let's say, more things we have to do. But the thing is, it is a challenge for us, but it's actually a really fun challenge. It's actually really cool to come up with all these ideas. And the thing is also, our quests are iterated upon a lot. So as an example, quest designers, of course, we play them ourselves. Pavel, as our lead, plays them again. Directors play them. And also, most importantly, QA plays our quests a lot, and our QA team has really, really good ideas. So, they always think, okay, what do I think right now? What would I want to do in this situation? And then we often communicate, and this is how some of the best ideas are actually created, just through going through these missions over and over again, and always finding some new ways to approach them and some new ways to, find interesting consequences, what to happen afterwards.
Yeah, and that I think sort of ties up with a whole philosophy of a game, which is the freedom. And we have a freedom on the story layer, and maybe I don't want to talk about it too much, not to spoil it, but but it ties up with the gameplay very well, with like the way how the levels are constructed, and with branching gameplay, as Philip just explained, because player has freedom playing the game. You build your character the way you want, and you play the way you want, and you want the player to feel this choice, that he's doing depending of how skills he's assigning, what weapons he or she is picking, and all that, and it all comes together as like fulfilling this ultimate like cyberpunk fantasy.
So in the demo, we obviously saw the bike. There was a little mention of the heavy armor car, but can you tell us a little bit more about the kinds of vehicles that will be in Cyberpunk 2077?
I can tell you a little bit about it. So there's of course many different kinds of vehicles, because we want to create a real open city, a city that makes sense in the year 2077. So there will be all kinds of vehicles, and of course there's also society is very different. So, we also have different art styles that correspond with the different parts of society. So we have the art style called entropy. So as an example, you might see vehicles that are just very useful. They're made to just bring a person from A to B, or, they're made to do a job. And of course, but, the player can choose to have them as well, especially if, the player might not have that much money yet. But there's also, super luxury high-end vehicles on the other side of the coin. So of course, you as a player are only limited by what you can afford.
That's like real life.
Yeah, life is like
That's
Cyberpunk.
what we strive for.
But yeah, we try to thrive for variety. So, we also looked like, what are the kinds of vehicles players would want to have in a Cyberpunk game? So, we don't just have cars, we of course also have bikes, like our very own Yaiba Kusanagi here, one of my favorites. It's a very, very cool bike. And there's some, let's say, surprise vehicles that are still to be seen in Cyberpunk that I don't want to spoil here, but I would say something very special that's also dear to my heart.
Now I'm really intrigued.
But of course also, let's say, the super highest echelon of people in Night City, they also have access to AVs, so flying cars, which is something that you as a player, you're not part of that world, but through specific story moments, you might get to, ride in them sometimes. So, we want to give you a few different experiences. But yeah, you can also, of course, you have your garage where your apartment is, so you can also have your own vehicle that you store and that you can call to yourself. So, you can't call your vehicle Roach if you want to. It's all up to you, but it will be your very own.
I wonder how many of these cars are going to be called Roach now that you've mentioned it. So Night City is massive, and that's like a point we're really trying to make. It's a huge, huge city. And you kind of want people to explore it by foot, right? You could just walk like from point A to point B if that's what you want, or drive.
You could, but probably you would get pretty tired because it's a pretty big place, so you will have to walk a lot. So the thing is, we do not have loading screens while exploring the city. It's a completely seamless place. You can go, wherever you want. And of course, Night City is a very dense place, so there's lots to see on your way. But the thing is also, as with all things, we want to give players a choice. So of course, there's the option to fast travel. But the thing is actually, the way we're designing the city, we actually kind of feel like, even when we're playing it ourselves, that fast travel is often just When I play the game, I don't want to fast travel. I want to explore the city because we actually try to give you so many interesting things, so many places that tell a story that look interesting, where you have something to do, where you can interact with things that just something new for you at every corner. So I personally don't fast travel a lot. I just drive my bike and I put on some nice music and I have a good time. But of course, you know, it's possible. And the thing is also, we actually have proper city planners working here that actually are planning out Night City and, you know, how the traffic would work in that city and how it would actually make the most sense, how a city like that would actually grow organically, and, you know, how it would flow, how the traffic would flow through there. So it's actually really interesting to also just have that part of game development now as part of, you know, Cyberpunk 2077, because this will be very important for how people actually get to explore it themselves.
To make the city feel alive.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so in The Witcher, everybody who's played The Witcher knows those question marks on the map, those points of interest. You dreamt about them when you were at work, you just thought about them. You can't walk past them. So what will we be sort of looking at for Cyberpunk? You know, what are those things that are going to be all-consuming us, so we are probably not paying attention to the main story? We're going to be like, oh, I've got to go do that first, and I can't go and do this until I've done that one over there. What will we be finding?
So in Night City, you actually really want to tie it into the world. So as an example, most districts have a so-called fixer. Like you might know from our gameplay demo from a year ago, there's Dexter Deshawn. And people like this, they can give you jobs that also fit the specific district you're in. So when you enter a district and, you know, you're kind of known as a mercenary who's doing certain things for money, fixers might contact you and they have some jobs for you. And then these jobs, you know, as an example, they can be street stories. And they show up on your map, and you get an icon, so you know, okay, this is this kind of street story. And we always want to put some interesting story to them, because after Wild Hunt, we actually founded a completely new team, the Open World team, which is actually creating some amazing content to actually fill this world with things that are meaningful. So, you know, we actually want to make this that you can do many also smaller things around the city, but they're actually all cool and unique in their own way. And one cool thing is also, of course, they appear on your map, but the map in the game is actually properly immersive. It's that really, really cool looking point cloud version of Night City. And you can see the tasks from your fixer there. But the cool thing is actually, because, you know, you're a character in Cyberpunk, you're V, and you actually have this information. So it's not just the player seeing them, it's actually your character seeing them as well, because it's all part of the world. So we want to give you this full immersion.
Yeah, it's actually really, really cool for us that with the street stories and all the other content, we're essentially sort of giving him like almost our Witcher 3 side quest treatment, in the sense that even simple tasks can be fun and exciting if we pack them up in a cool story and root them within the world, right? We can use these street stories to expand further on how life in Night City and the world of Cyberpunk in general works. And sometimes this might even be a better staging ground than the main story itself, right? Mm-hmm. Where just like, hey, let's see how everyday life works in this kind of aspect, from this perspective, in this scenario. And actually that's, again, like for us, that's a lot of fun. And it's a very exciting process. And I hope that when players play it at the end, that they will actually find that it sort of enriches their experience, because they always kind of have this impression like, hey, wow, no matter where I go, things are actually worked out, right? It's never just a simple sort of task of, hey, do things, like, but there's always a reason, there's always an understanding of why you're doing things. And even in those few scenarios where it might seem a bit more, you know, oblivious, you'll usually find that, you know, there's more to it that meets the eye.
Yeah, and one interesting thing about those street stories is also that, you know, our main story is, of course, your own personal journey through Night City, but the street stories are actually, because, you know, you play a mercenary who's trying to carve their way through the city. This is actually your job. So this is actually the role you now inhabit in this city. So actually you're part of that system through these street stories and through working with fixers. So it's actually this whole different way of playing, you know, the game and feeling immersed in the city.
Can't wait to lose my life to them. So in the deep dive, we can see that the character has 3 sort of origins that we can pick. I mean, what are they and how do they actually affect the gameplay?
Oh, okay.
You're like, yes, let's go.
Yeah, okay. I'll go into my 50-minute answer. Okay, so we actually call them life paths. Those are the origin stories that player can pick. And it's actually 3 of them. So you can be a street kid, you can be a nomad, or you can be a corpo. Now, each of them actually defines the beginning of the story for the player. So you start in a completely different way than other life path, and you are slowly introduced into that story. You know a different people, you're in a completely different place in life, you're in a different place in Night City, and your story slowly, you get involved into that whole thing with Chip and Johnny Silverhand, and eventually, you will land there. But you actually start off being a completely different person. Now, what is important with that is we actually take that through the whole game. And you as a player, you can actually associate yourself with like nomads, you can associate yourself with corporate people, or you can be a part of the streets. And it's really up to you, what path you want to pick through the main story, and we did our best in the quest team to like support all those like 3, I would say, main ways to go through the story. And of course player can like mix and match anytime, any way he really wants, or she really wants, but it's something that we take from the very beginning till the very end. And what's important there is when you're in the scenes with the characters, so when you're discussing things, you can actually use those things. So if you're a corpo and you know how the corporations work, what are their normal methods, what's the deal with them, you actually can use this knowledge and sometimes get something more. You can actually unlock side branches in the dialogues, and you can unlock side branches in the whole quest sometimes. And this is a bit exciting, I would say. It's something like the way how we to make sure that the player can role play their character, to become that person. And in the demo that we have shown in the recording, you can see this moment when you choose that character that you are becoming later. And the characters that you are meeting in the main story, they are also representing those different groups. So in the first demo a year ago, we have shown Meredith Stout, a person, she is a high-class corporate woman from Militech. She has a lot of power, also a lot of responsibility, and you are on her way. And you can see, how that interaction looks like. So when you're from corporation, maybe there's something you can do a bit more with her, and that goes also for others, for nomads and for street kids.
One of the nice things is actually also that, you're not bound to stick, let's say, with the corporates or with the streets. So as an example, I can give an example. I started as a street kid the game, and I know I have my knowledge, but then I play through the story and I notice like, I kind of like these corporate characters. I like that life. So, I can just, betray the streets and snuggle up with the corporates. But, this is kind of the role-playing freedom we want to give. But, as always, this can also have consequences for you.
So anyone who's played the original tabletop version of Cyberpunk is used to the idea of assigning attribute points to create a character. Now, in the deep dive video we just saw, we got a little glimpse of that screen. You could see the points and the different things. So help me understand how that works and how you gain those points.
So as a player, you build your character at the beginning, assigning those attribute points, and they define like the core characteristics of your character. So how much body strength you have, or how much reflexes you have, or how cool you are. That's one of the interesting stats that we have, right? But then, as you have those attributes, you also have skills. The skills define a bit more interesting proficiencies for you as a player, what you can do. And for instance, one of those skills is assassination or the cold blood. And maybe I'll stick to the cold blood to explain a bit more. So this is a skill that allows the player to survive in a really tough situation. So at the moment, you get a lot of damage, then the cold blood skill kicks in, thanks to your cool stat. It kicks in and gives you a boost in damage, and then as a player you can, survive and so on. But then, using that skill, so you sort of like use by learning, like using that skill, you can actually get better, pump up levels there, and you can get different perks. Now, what's interesting there, you can actually give completely different perks to the skill that you have. And here I think I could use the example of the athletics attribute. So the athletics is the way for us to move dead bodies. So as a player, you can basically pick up the dead body that you have just basically killed, and pick it up and like stuff it into the fridge or in a trash bin. Now, as a player, you normally slow down when you're moving around with the bodies. But if you have added special perks to your athletic skill, you can now run with the dead body. So because you are more athletic, you can do that. And those are like 3 levels of complexity in our character in building the character we have. You have the attributes, you have the skills, and then you assign perks to it. And those three come together to allow you to create your own amazing character that you want to play it.
A lot of people think this is maybe how cool you look and it's all about the jacket you're wearing, but the cool stat is not style-based, is it?
Well, you know, this is Cyberpunk, so being cool is of course very important. But the actual cool stat really means how cool you are under pressure, how much you have control over your body. So, you know, are there people shooting at me and I'm holding my gun like that? Probably not very cool. So this is, you know, this is the kind of thing that cool actually controls. But of course, you know, if you want to play a character that's actually cool, you have your choices, right? You can wear your nice leather jacket. And of course, you know, like in real life, also depends on how you talk to people. And that's of course also the choice of you as a player.
He just might freak out under gunfire.
Yeah.
Like, cool on the surface, but not so much when push comes to shove.
Happens sometimes.
So in the deep dive, we saw a quick clip of the inventory screen. It looks like a proper old school RPG screen, you know, with the little blocks of the system. And I know the community wants to hear more about what they can expect. So tell us more, Miles.
Oh, I will. Now, of course, like how I always say is, you know, in Cyberpunk, the inventory screen is, of course, where we manage our items, right? But most importantly, in Cyberpunk, it's where we also manage our style. And just as Philip just touched on, you know, like it's really important for us to be able, for you to be able to realize your character, and that, of course, comes in the character creation, but also the way you dress your character, right? We're pretty much aware that there's sort of this, in most RPGs, there's this common sort of disconnect between the stats on an item and the looks. While we can go into details here, let's just say we're aware of this sort of, you know, conflict, I guess, of interest sometimes. So we're looking into how you would be able to make your character still look cool despite having the best stats of an item, right? Just goes to show that that is really important to us. And of course, you know, the whole role-playing aspect goes even further, because we'll have some customization options, not only for the way you look like, but also your guns, right? In the inventory, you will of course decide what kind of weaponry it is that your character uses to kill people with, or sneak into different, you know, bases, locations, because of course it's also where we mention cyberware, and all of these little things brought together. Again, they've sort of allow you to fulfill your sort of what do you call it? Character fantasy. That's the word I was looking for.
In the inventory, yes, we're changing our clothes, we want to look super cool, but what about cyberware? Can we do anything with cyberware from the inventory screen?
Oh, yes. So imagine inventory screen, right? So if you see the player there, you have a slot. So normally in, like, let's say fantasy game, you would equip a armor, right? Or you would equip, I don't know, a leg piece or something. Like right now here, you can actually replace that with a cyberware, right? So you can get your legs replaced to your cyber legs, right? And those can give you different skills, like let's say double jump. But then as a player, you can upgrade actually those and let's say enhance them in a way that they give you something special to it. So for instance, you can actually make them jump in a way they do not emit that much sound, and they become like a really stealth tool. So because of that, you can traverse in a quiet way through the locations. So this is how you actually upgrade your character. You just go over your body and replace whatever you need. And in the lore, there are Ripper dogs who help you out with that when you have to install those core pieces of cyberware, like for instance the Raven control system that allows you to control the flathead. But there are also other pieces that you can do on your own. And on top of that, as a player, you can also find pieces, small pieces called shards. And those, if you slot into your slot, you can actually, they give you a power of a given cyberware so you can try it out. So as a player, you can experiment a bit, you know, and see how it would be if I would have installed, you know, some special piece of cyberware in my body. And that allows the player to, you know, to see stuff, to figure it out, to build their character the way they want.
Okay, so we know we can equip some of our cybernetic enhancements in the inventory, but like, where do we get them? Like, how do we get more enhancements?
All right, there's actually multiple ways of going about that, right? The most obvious one is going to a so-called Ripperdoc and getting new cyberware built in you, or enhancing the cyberware that you have. Some of it you'll actually get through as you adventure through Night City. Things like the Kuroshi Eye implant that we have, right? It's almost mandated on top of you because it's sort of like a core gameplay mechanic to be able to scan things and get additional information on certain circumstances. And of course, then we also have something we call the street cred system, right? So as you progress throughout the game, you will also unlock more street cred through your actions, and that will enable you to unlock more content in the game. That means, more vendors will open up to you, more services will open up, people will have heard of you and are more willing to work with you. So there's actually multiple ways this affects your experience, and one of them being, like the cyberware that you have access to.
Cool. So Netrunner was featured pretty heavily in the deep dive, but can you give us a little bit more insight into some of the combat skills or abilities that come with the idea of building a Netrunner class?
Yeah, so I think using netrunning skills gives you lots of, let's say, opportunities to be very creative in how you play the game. So I can just give a few examples. So we have access points, and access points are, in the world of Cyberpunk, they can control all the different devices in the area, which of course as a netrunner is pretty useful because you can hack that access point, and if you successfully do that, you can now use quick hacks. You can actually from a distance take over different devices, like as an example, a camera. You can do many different things with it. Look through the camera and have a completely different view, or just, turn it off if it's in your way. And of course, you can take over a turret and make it fight for you, or you can do many different things. We also try to come up with nice custom things. So, depending on where you are, let's say if you're in a gym where there's some nice boxing robot, of course, maybe you can do some fun things with that. So I think as a netrunner, it's always lots of fun to use different things. And as an example, if I would use lots of netrunning skills, it's also really useful to use lots of cool skills that make me really good at stealth, so I'm really under control. So netrunner can be really good at also using distractions, like if there's a vending machine, just make it spit out some drinks, and then of course some people might look after that. But the thing is, a netrunner isn't just a stealth character. There's also cool aggressive netrunning abilities, because we always want to give you the choice of how to play. So we have your nanowire cyberware, which is really good at hacking enemies from a distance and then actually taking over their cyberware. So most people in this world have cyberware in their body, so just like access points, very good times for netrunners. So you can then control that cyberware and also do some nice things, like as an example, hack someone's cyberware in their hand and make them do some things they might not want to have happen to them. But the thing is also the nanowire, of course, it's a wire, it's nano, it's very, sharp, so you can also use it as a weapon or as a whip, and, the netrunner can be very effective at using his skills in combat as well. So it's all just, your choice as a player.
What about, let's say, because this all sounds amazing, but let's say you want to do slightly non-lethal, because in the deep dive we saw with Sasquatch at the end, there was an option.
Yep.
Do you want to put her out of misery, or do you want to let her live? So how do people play it like a non-lethal playthrough? Can you build a class to help you do that?
So that's basically a choice we made. We really said, okay, Cyberpunk, it is a very violent world, but you're role-playing your character. You can choose to play the whole game without killing a single person. And of course, we're always saying this should also have an effect on the story. So certain characters, in a quest might ask you, yeah, please do this thing for me, but don't make too much trouble. And of course, you don't get a game over if you do a thing that the character doesn't wanna. So, but the story will react to it. And we want to give you that choice. But of course, not only the netrunner is able to do a non-lethal playthrough. Every player, however you want to skill your character, you're able to do it somehow. But of course, it also depends, where you are. Let's say if you're in some rundown ruin that doesn't have lots of netrunning abilities, of course, a netrunner still has ways to do it. But he might not be able to use all of his netrunning skills. But another player who has skilled different ways now has a different experience. But it can happen vice versa. But what we always want to say, you can finish the whole game, you can finish the quests without killing a single person. Sometimes you just have to also, think about it. Because the thing is, Night City isn't a very peaceful place. So you can never play like a full pacifist who was never engaging in any kind of combat. Because, people will attack you sometimes. But you can choose to, not kill them, because like in real life, sometimes if there's attacks, you don't immediately kill everyone. You can solve situations in different ways.
Yeah, all right. One thing I'd actually like to add to that is that we're trying really hard to not actually punish players for the playstyle they choose to do, right? Whether it is that you're playing a lethal or non-lethal, or like a more aggressive versus a more subtle kind of approach. While NPCs might sort of have certain wishes for you how to approach a situation, they will never outright punish you for not, sort of doing their wishes. Because we really want to give players as much freedom as possible, and punishing the players for certain actions like that, which is basically them choosing to play their character, would directly contradict this kind of idea that we're trying to set up in terms of role-playing fantasy.
There's nothing worse than like accidentally slipping on the trigger and you're like, I didn't mean to kill him, and then everything
exactly.
Yeah.
And as an example, you can also see a Sasquatch that we show in our demo. It's a really intense fight, but actually, if you choose, you can subvert that fight. You can maybe just, sneak around her and find a different solution. And then maybe, of course, you can get a consequence out of that, because now Sasquatch is still alive. So, the story is already different. So I think this opens up many different opportunities, not just for the gameplay, but also for us as storytellers.
But let's tell us a little bit more about the solo build, because that was another build from in the deep dive. What kind of skills does that give someone then, as opposed to Netrunner?
I think that the most typical solo fantasies that our players have is to be a strong solo and to be fast solo. So be
it's two different.
I would say so. But you can also build any type of hybrid you want. But the strong one is the person who can shove people into the trash bins and so on, carry bodies, run with them. But you can also pick up the heavy guns, mounted to the turret and use it against the opponents. We have shown that in the recording for a moment. When V is just killing everything on her way with this very heavy gun, you of course cannot take it to your inventory and run around with everything with it everywhere. But this is the only I would say build that allows you to do that, right? So this is very, very special. However, if as a fast solo, you have access to lots of different traversing skills. So as a means of exploration, you can, for instance, do the double jump and access places that you would not have otherwise, right? You can also, slide around with your katana, or slide around using nanowire that we have also shown. So you can be built in a completely different ways, built based on the stats that you have picked as a person.
Sounds really, really cool. I'm just going to run in, I think, and just punch everything until I get what I want, which is also like real life.
Yeah,
this
exactly
game
the same.
is so close to real life. It's quite incredible, actually.
It literally happens every day.
So we know we've talked about Netrunner and Solo, and we've shown both of them in our deep dive, but that's not just it, right? There are other builds. So, maybe tell us about Techie.
Yeah, so generally how we approach this kind of stuff is we have sort of thought, we're thinking of three sort of main archetypes of how you can play the game. That would be the Netrunner playstyle, right? The solo playstyle, which, as Pavel said, sort of branches into sort of more agile, fast solo, and the more brutish, strong solo character. And then there's the last one, which is the Techie. Again, it's just important for us to say that these are just archetypes that help us think about how players might approach any kind of situation. But of course, you'll be able to create any kind of hybrid and just pick the skills that you like in between. And the Techie, is sort of a more technically affiliated playstyle, right? Whereas the Netrunner is the one that sort of manipulates devices that are active by hacking networks and taking over control. The Techie is actually the one that sort of dabbles with the hardware itself and cables and whatever drives machinery, all that stuff. And to add on top of that, we're actually layering our little buddy called Flathead, and he is what we call a spider bot, a kind of very sophisticated piece of military hardware that the player will be able to use when he chooses to invest into the Techie playstyle. And Flathead is an interesting one because he's a pretty, basically this autonomous robot that listens to your commands, and you can basically send out Flathead to do certain things for you, right? You might be able to send him out to manipulate certain devices, right? There might be, I don't know, let's come up with an example here. There is some sort of broken lamp or something, or like a broken gadget. You can see it with your scanner, right? And you might actually send Flathead to do a little bit of tweakage there to make that object fall down onto an enemy, right? Or other examples would be to use Flathead to, directly engage with enemies. There's a certain customization options that might be tied to a buddy robot, and I hope actually players will get oddly attached to their little robot buddy, right? And again, this is like a whole sort of layer, another layer of how you might play the game. And as I said earlier, with us thinking of the archetypes, it is one of the many possible ways of how to play the game, and we're trying to add as many tools as we can for all three of these archetypes to really sort of be able to manipulate the game world and feel like, yeah, this world, if I look around, I see opportunities that suit me. You're maybe fantasizing to play as a sort of Terminator kind of character, right? We have our scanner, you look around, see opportunities, and you seize them. And how you seize them and what opportunities arise for it really just depends on what kind of character you're playing and what skills you have invested in.
Okay, so we all stand Flathead. We know that Flathead is everything. But also let's talk about actual weapons. Let's talk about guns. What can we expect? 'Cause we saw a few. We saw the Militech turret being ripped out used as a machine gun. We saw the nanowires, but tell us a little bit more.
So our guns are divided into three main categories, right? There are smart guns that we have shown in a previous demo like a year ago. So basically they shoot homing bullets that are following target. There are also tech weapons, and the tech weapons are those that have additional capabilities to them that they for instance can pierce covers. And there are also power weapons, and power weapons are mainly focused on being a street grid weapons. So they basically have additional skills and capabilities connected to the fact they're reworked in some way. So for instance, those are bursting shotguns and things like that. And we have put plenty of work to making sure that the weapons feel well and they have their weight. And there's lots of really cool examples that I can give here. For instance, there is a handgun that as you use it, it actually speeds up the bullets slowly, and longer you use it, faster the bullets become, so they can do more things and they can do more damage. There is, for instance, a class of the weapons for the handguns that has been created by a Russian company to fight cyborgs. And that weapon is able to heat up the bullet to the point that the bullet becomes almost like a melted plastic, and is done, for instance, so it can shoot off cyborgs' arms and so on. So there's always a small piece of story wrapped up around the weapon, what that weapon does. And what's interesting here, I think, is that you can also use a second firing mode for a weapon, and not all weapons have them, but some of them, if you use them in a specific way, let's say a tech rifle that we have shown in a previous demo, when you use it in a specific way, it changes its way, it collapses together, and then it allows you to pierce up the covers and shoot through the walls and shoot the enemies like that. Or you can, bounce bullets off the walls, right, using the ricochet. We try to always put enough depth into the gun. For instance, I literally today I have seen awesome shotgun that has 8 barrels, and they shoots them in the same time, and it has actually I think that players will love our gunplay, especially the way how the guns look and how they feel when you shoot them.
I'm so excited. That's yeah. Shotguns, they're my favorite. 8 barrels, even better.
I think also something really cool to add to this is that, as you already touched on it, like all of these companies, these gun manufacturers and all that stuff, they actually, a lot of it comes from the actual lore, right? But we're also making sure that, there's a history to everything. That includes the brands and ads that we have in the game. We actually have like a whole team dedicated to just that kind of stuff. And again, it sort of is in line with our philosophy to make sure that everything is rooted in the world, has its reason why it is there, has its history. I think that's really sort of like the secret ingredient to make like a really believable world, that when the player actually goes in, that they have this impression like, yeah, this place exists, right? This feels alive. And I think that will make just the fact of simply walking through Night City like a really, really cool experience.
Also, actually, one of the cool things we also have is we have lots of different melee weapons. And it starts by very spontaneous ones. So let's say you find a broken bottle and you just use it, or you find a knife on the ground and you can use it to fight melee, or you can, as an example, throw it. But you can also specialize in melee weapons, because as we said earlier, maybe you want to play as a cyber ninja, and of course as a cyber ninja there's many different katanas that you can actually also specialize in getting really good at them. And there's even cyberware for melee, like the gorilla fists that can also be used to, be really strong and open doors. But if you're really strong, you can also hit people with it. But a cool thing is also using your melee weapons together with special cyberware. So as an example, my favorite cyberware that I always like to use is the Sandevistan. And essentially it slows down time for you because your reflexes get boosted. So now you have superhuman reflexes. And the way we show it is, of course, time slowing down for you as a player. So imagine you have your katana and you just go into a slide and then you can aim and like just go through, and it actually feels really cool. Like you feel like you have super control, but actually you can also see, as an example in the demo, how it feels like to be in the receiving end of cyberware like that, because the animals have reflex boosting cyberware as well. So actually sometimes when they're coming towards you in melee, they zip around really fast.
That's what that is.
Exactly, and this is how it actually feels for enemies. When you have your, slow-mo, this is how they see you moving around. So it can be pretty scary to also find someone who uses the same cyberware you use.
What about you two then? What are your favorite cyberwares that you've seen so far, that you can talk about so far before you get me in trouble?
Oh, I think that at least for me, I think those are gonna be Mantis blades. I think that's the best one. We have shown how it looks for the player, how it feels when you use them. The way you can chop off heads and so on. It's something of a it's very poetic, I would say. Yeah, and in other cyberware, I think that I would like it's more story related. It's Mr. Stud. I will let our players to figure it out what it does for those who know the lore a bit.
For me, Philip already took it away by taking the strong arms earlier and the Sandevistan, so bit of a greedy dude over there. No, but so I guess technically the cyber deck is a piece of cyberware, right? That's the one that actually allows you to breach into networks, take over control, and use all that hacking magic on all kinds of enemies, right? Like in the gameplay, we show how you can not only manipulate this training robot, but you can also manipulate devices that you might not think are necessarily hackable, like the bench press that we showed there, and it goes even further than that, right? If you combine that with, like for example, the nanowires, but also you can do it from closer up, you can actually breach into like a squad's internal network by hacking directly into the personal links of enemies. And once you're in the squad network, you can actually use what we call daemon software, and to essentially quick hack the cyberware that is attached to people's bodies, right? So imagine a scenario where you're a netrunner kind of character, you're sneaking through, but then things get hot, right? So now you find yourself in a combat situation. Luckily, of course, you come prepared. You already foresaw that things might go wrong because you're a skilled netrunner after all. So you already breached into the squad's internal network. Now, these enemies start swarming you, and what do? Of course, you start using your scanner. Then you look at these guys and you realize, hey, I breached the security, so I can now upload my virus software into these guys to make them do things that they don't necessarily want. You might hack their cybernetic hand to force them to pull the pin on a grenade they have at their grenade belt, setting them to a fiery and explosive but spectacularly looking death. Alternatively, we also have one that you can actually use to basically make enemies finish themselves off, right? They'll shut themselves down. And it's actually really cool because you sort of see them struggling with their hand as well. So it's like it really sells the fantasy of what you're doing, right? And you're basically becoming this cybernetic god as soon as you take over a network. And it really is something that, feels so different from the other play styles that we have. And I really like the sort of level of variety that we offer players when it comes to that. And I think that ultimately, and pardon me for being a bit buzzworthy about this, but this will really make each playthrough very unique to players, right? Not only the way you play it, the way you interact with the world, the way you talk to people, all that kind of stuff. If you look at all the little choices that accumulate through the game, no playthrough will basically be like another. And inherently they will also feel very differently depending on what kind of character you want to play. And I guess that would be the less obvious one, because as a netrunner you'll always be sort of having your cyber deck, because otherwise you could not be a netrunner. And then I think I've mentioned before in another video of sorts that I really like our nanowires, which go hand in hand sort of with this net running playstyle. I guess you can see where my personal preferences lie. Don't worry, it does not affect my designs. I try to be balanced. Whereas the regular netrunner can sort of breach into a squad network by sort of taking an enemy out and having an extra option to breach into their squad's network. The nanowires actually allow you to do this from a distance or from a safe spot, right? And they can also be used to slice people into bite-sized pieces. So again, as Philip said much earlier, if I remember correctly, we've been doing this for a bit. There's actually, no playstyle that is sort of meant to be played in a certain way. Right, we don't go, okay, the hacker kind of character, he's the stealthy guy, he needs to operate from the shadows, whereas the solo type, he's the one that, just goes out and shoots everyone. No, you can actually still, within these playstyles, choose how you play the kind of character, lethal, non-lethal, stealthy, and non-stealthy, and we just give you the tools in all playstyles to do whatever you want with it, right? So if you want to be a combat netrunner, if you will, that likes to use gunfire and making people blow themselves up, sure, go do that, but you can also do it in a stealthy approach. It really lies in the player's hands.
So let's say I've got my 8-barrel shotgun. It's my favorite gun. I love it. What can I do to it? Can I customize it? Is it moddable? Are there any options for, really making something special and one of a kind?
So I think we can say that there are two major ways what you can do, how you can customize your guns. One way is customizing the visuals, and those are different skins and paint overs, paint jobs that you can have on your gun just to make sure that, when you're a Cupid, that your rifle is pink or purple, if you really want it. But then there's the second way how you can customize it. It's a different sort of attachments that you can have. You can have silencers, you can have a sniper rifle zoom on the gun. You also can boost up the stats of the given weapon. So in that way, you can basically make it more efficient. So you can make it to look the way you want, and you can make it to shoot the way you want.
I think, Mars, you've mentioned this before, that also changes the animation, right? As it progresses, you can change the way it looks as you reload and things like that.
Yeah, so basically the more you use your guns, who figures, the better you become at shooting them, right? You might start as a complete amateur, like I would be with shooting a gun.
Good to know.
But yeah, I'm not a very good shot. And the better you become with it, that actually affects your way of handling a gun. So, your like your crosshair might become smaller, indicating that your accuracy increases ever so slightly, and that will also sort of influence the way your animation looks like. Your reload speed will be faster and all that stuff. So you actually really get this sense of progression and your character evolving as you play the game. And yeah, I think that's pretty special sort of experience if you combine it with the way, you know, that you can customize your guns and kind of really have this feeling that, yeah, this is my signature gun, right? And I'm really good with it.
Right, guys, thank you so much. I know there is one thing we haven't talked about from the demo, and that is a little bit more about the gangs. We spoke about the Voodoo Boys a bit, but we haven't even really spoken about the animals. And while I know you guys know everything about Cyberpunk, I thought I'd actually throw out to maybe the godfather himself. So I caught up with Mike Pondsmith at Gamescom to ask him, who are the Voodoo Boys and who are the animals?
Hi. My name is Mike Pondsmith, and I'm the guy who killed your Cyberpunk characters. And today, I'm going to talk to you about two very important things. I'm going to talk to you about animals, and I'm going to talk to you about the Voodoo Boys. So, let's take the Voodoo Boys. When I created them many, many years ago, I was looking at kind of a really interesting idea, which is what we would now call cultural appropriation. What happens when somebody comes in and tries to adopt a culture that they know little or nothing about and does it really badly. But one of the great things about having a few years is that you get a chance to do some redos. And one of the best ones is what we have with the Voodoo Boys now. The Voodoo Boys in 2077 are really Voodoo Boys. They inherited the name, but it was sort of a natural fit. They were coming from Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and they were the real thing. And they managed to take a lot of the elements of their original culture and meld it into the world of 2077 to bring that cyberpunk vibe into a very old and respected culture. So they're a gang, but they're not really. They're more of a cultural phenomenon. They're more a way of cultural exploration. And I think it's really cool because it shows us a side of the cyberpunk future that we normally wouldn't see. On the other hand, they're the animals. Way, way back in my dark, dank past, I used to lift. Don't anymore, but I used to. And I would see guys like the animals in the gym I went to. Guys who lived to get strong, and get really strong, and get really strong. The animals are like those guys. They're in it to basically build themselves up and become the tigers of their particular urban jungle. They want to be big, they want to be bad, and they want you to fear them just because they exist. And you know, it's really easy to fear a guy who blots out the sun when he walks by you. But the animals are very simple. They have an ethos: get big, lift, get strong, lift. So unlike the Voodoo Boys, who have a culture, the animals have a thing. And contrasting that is interesting, because in 2077, you get a chance to see that not every gang is the same as every other gang, and what motivates them depends on the people you meet on the street. Check it out. This is Mike Pondsmith saying, I'm still here to kill your Cyberpunk character.
We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into Cyberpunk 2077. Now, don't forget, you can join us on Twitter, Facebook, forums, and even join us on Discord to make sure you stay up to date on all of our news. Cyberpunk 2077 is launching April 16th, 2020, and is available for pre-order now. On behalf of everybody working on Cyberpunk and here at CD Projekt Red, we thank you for watching, your ongoing support, and we can't wait for you to explore Night City.